This is the Ultimarc U360 joystick, the USB version. You can take a standard mini USB cable and it plugs into the circuit board that's on the bottom of this joystick, like that. You can also get an optional button harness that looks like this, which would plug into these pins here on the circuit board, and then these wires can be hooked up to your buttons. The whole joystick shows up as a standard gamepad type device in Windows. But the primary purpose of this video is to talk about the actual hardware and how to take the joystick apart and change some things about it. So what I'd like to do is change it into a sort of upgraded version. So this is how it comes. It comes with a red ball top. You can also get a pear-shaped handle for it from Ultimarc. It comes with the shorter joystick handle, and it comes with a relatively light spring. So what I'd like to change it to is this version, which has a bubble top joystick ball top. I got this one at Lizardlick on the web, and I also have upgraded the handle to the longer handle that Ultimarc offers. This is especially useful if you're if you're mounting it from underneath your panel, and it's a 3/4 inch panel. Having the extra length is almost necessary. I also have a circular restrictor plate here to limit the movement from left to right, give more precise control, and I've put the stiffer spring in the joystick, the harder spring. All of these are available on the Ultimarc website as optional purchases, except for the bubble top, which you can get from numerous places, I'm sure, but I got mine at Lizardlick. Okay, so let's see how this all works. First, you want to take off this ball top, and that just screws off. If it's tight and you need to use pliers, just make sure you wrap the shaft in cloth, a t-shirt or something, so that you don't mar this if you need to do that to get it off. Now, if the joystick is already mounted to a panel, you can actually replace the shaft by going through the bottom, by taking off the circuit board. But I'm going to show you how to take apart the whole thing. So I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to take the whole thing apart so you'll see everything. Okay, so the first are there's these 4 screws here, which we'll take apart. Now, the thing that makes this joystick really quite unique, as you've seen, it has this circuit board on the bottom. And the circuit board is what allows the joystick to be programmed into any one of a number of different configurations, as, for example, a 4-way joystick, an 8-way joystick, a 2-way joystick, and this is all set in software, and the joystick plays very nicely with front ends like GameEX and Hyperspin and utilities like LED Blinky, etc. So when the game launches, for example, if you launch Defender, the joystick will go to a 2-way joystick up and down. So it's a really fantastic joystick in the way that it operates, I have to say. So this plate comes off, which then allows you to take the shaft assembly out. The other unique thing about how this joystick works is this magnet that's on the bottom. It's just a magnet and it sticks on there, and this magnet is detected by a receiver in the circuit board, and that's how it tells how much left, right, up, down action there has been. The joystick doesn't have any switches. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. Next, you have to take this ring clamp off, which you have to be quite careful at doing so that it doesn't fly across the room. And this is also a spring here, and that can cause havoc and spring all and fly everything across the room if you're not careful. But there, I got the ring off. Then there's this little plastic cup. Then the spring itself, another plastic piece. That and that. So that's the shaft part. Now this is the handle that I'm going to replace it with. You can see that they have different lengths. We're going to use the longer handle. Okay, so now basically I put that all back together. And that goes in there first. And that allows that to slide in there. Okay. Now we have to put the white cap on, and I'm going to get the new spring. This is the stiff spring, and this is the default softer spring. This one's much stiffer. So we put the stiff spring on, and then we put the black cap on, and then the ring goes on. And for that you'll need to squeeze this in and then get a pair of needle nose pliers. Now, these are magnetic, so it's causing a little bit of an issue. Okay, hold on. Takes a little bit of practice working with these. There you go. Okay, so now the long shaft is on. Okay, the next part is putting on the restrictor plate. And the restrictor plate kit comes with two types of restrictors. It comes with an O restrictor and then I believe a 4-way restrictor, an 8-way restrictor, an octagon. I think it comes with two different restrictors. I'm going to use the circular restrictor. Now this, you may have noticed this arrow that I put here, and I also have it on the plate. I have an M because the orientation of this, it can't be turned any which way. There is a top to it that Windows will recognize, and so I just put an M there for monitor. That's the side that faces the monitor. Of course, the plate itself can be rotated any which way, and then the up arrow goes with the M. That's so that when I put the thing back together, I know which way it goes. All right, now you've got these 4 screws here, which need to get undone. Of course, this only happens when you're trying to do it for the camera. You know, you can't unscrew a screw. Okay, so circuit bar is off. Then there's these 4 risers. Those need to come off as well. And for that, you need a relatively small screwdriver to be able to fit through the hole in the riser and then unscrew the screws that are underneath. Okay, so now the restrictor plate, the circular restrictor, which looks like this, goes on the plastic housing. Now this is where there is an issue, and I would say it's kind of a major issue with the design of this restrictor. plate kit. Here's the issue. You have to use these 4 little risers which get screwed into the base. Now, one of the problems that I've had is that these do not screw in very nicely. They're oftentimes very difficult to put in, and the material is just too soft, and it's not precisely engineered well enough to really screw into these holes very well. I've had numerous problems with these risers. The risers are necessary in order to get the circuit board to be the correct distance away from the magnet so that the sensors work right with the restrictor plate in. I've talked to Andy at Ultimarc about this, and he was kind enough to send me some new standoffs here, but definitely do a test fit of these before you start putting this all together to make sure that the ones that you have will actually screw into these brass fittings correctly. Okay, so then the next problem, you put the circular restrictor plate on there, and then you screw in the standoffs to hold it down, and the first one goes in nicely, and the second one goes in nicely. The third one goes in. It's starting to get tight, but it'll go in. And the fourth one now does not go in. It's too tight. It won't go in. I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually at an angle. And so I've determined that a second problem with this is that these slots that are in the plastic restrictor plate, they don't line up quite right all the time with these little brass inserts that you have to screw the standoff into. And at the first, I didn't know what to do about it. It just really created a lot of problem for me. I didn't know how to get it in there, and I ended up using a pair of pliers and just wrenching on these things and to get them in, and one of them actually broke off, and I had to get a new one sent and all that. It was terrible. So this whole system is kind of a problem. But I did figure out a way to solve the problem, although it would be better if the tolerances on these were just loosened up. But I had a razor blade, and it's basically sort of cut into the plastic just to open up at the end here. Just open up that plastic. Okay, and I've done that previously, so this one's already done. So that it's not so tight, and you'll see that it's not an issue in terms of the restrictor plate staying on. So really these slots can be made much bigger so that the tolerances are not as tight and these things will screw in. So now you'll see that because I'm using that wider part that I carved out, these should screw in just fine. Okay, so all 4 go in very nicely with that being opened up. And you can see that this thing's not moving anywhere, so I'm not sure why those slots are just so tightly engineered. Anyway, so then you have that. And then you have to put on the circuit board. This is kind of another issue that in terms of tolerances, these holes that the standoffs go into now oftentimes don't line up precisely, and it's really quite difficult to get the circuit board on. You have to really kind of press down until it sort of goes down over those things. And I understand that the distance has to be precise so that the magnet works correctly, but something has to change there, I think. Then there's these little plastic screw caps to hold that on. It's so tight I can't imagine actually really even needing these, but they are here to hold on the circuit board. Okay, now the joystick can simply go in there, put the magnet on. And the magnet can't go on because the restrictor plate's on there now. So put that on there, and then you can just move the joystick over, and the magnet goes right on there. Then we're ready for the plate. Put our screws back on. Oops, those are the wrong screws. Okay, I'll just put those two on there. And then finally we put on the bubble top. And again, if you want that nice and tight, you might wrap some cloth around here and just give it a good, wrench with a pair of pliers. And now you have the long handle, bubble top, circular restrictor, and the stiff spring. The joystick is really fantastic in operation. I love it. I've used it in 2 arcade machines now, and can't speak highly enough of it. However, it does have the restrictor plate. Some changes can be made to make that better, but there are these workarounds. So there you have it.